el contagio en el niño por nacer. Un número creciente de estados requiere que tanto el novio como la novia se sometan a examen, inclusive prueba para la sífilis, antes del matrimonio. En otros estados se urge la aprobación de leyes semejantes, pues el gobierno sabe que así puede economizarse millones que se gastan en instituciones para las víctimas de la sífilis. La industria empieza a darse cuenta de que la guerra contra la sífilis es de gran importancia. Accidentes costosos, cambios de personal con frecuencia debidos a la sífilis pueden disminuirse. Por lo tanto, las industrias tratan de prevenir y curar la sífilis en sus empleados. Pero esto no es más que un comienzo. Queda mucho por hacer. Los ciudadanos y el gobierno tienen larga labor por delante. Las escuelas tienen ahora la responsabilidad de instruir a los jóvenes, pues el 75% de los sifilíticos contraen la enfermedad antes de los 30 años. El clero puede hacer mucho propagando altos ideales. Los padres deben guiar, proteger e instruir a sus hijos. Las comunidades deben proporcionar entretenimientos sanos y poner en vigor leyes adecuadas para la protección de la juventud. Sí, aún queda mucho por hacer, pero gracias a la ciencia médica, gracias a los investigadores, los médicos, los funcionarios de la sanidad, tenemos a mano las armas para una guerra victoriosa contra la sífilis. La sífilis puede diagnosticarse, puede evitarse su contagio, puede curarse. Se necesita algo más, sin embargo, para derrotar el microbio de la sífilis. Que toda persona conozca los hechos, la verdad. Con la amplia difusión de la verdad y con estas armas, en el nuevo mundo puede derrotarse la sífilis en una generación.
Señor Delgado, anteayer le pedí a usted que les hablara a los empleados sobre el asunto de la puntualidad. ¿Lo hizo?
Sí, Mr. Wright. Y ayer, antes que salieran, les volví a recordar.
Entonces, ¿qué pasa? Ya faltan 25 para las 9 y todavía no han llegado todos.
No sé. Es la costumbre que han tenido de llegar siempre entre 8:30 y 9 menos cuarto.
Pues si antes que yo viniera existía esa costumbre, ahora vamos a cambiarla.
Ojalá que usted les hablara directamente si pudiera.
Muy bien, porque como nuevo gerente, lo primero que exijo es que todo el mundo sea puntual.
Otra cosa. Me dijo usted que consultara con los empleados sobre el cambio de horario.
Sí, gracias. Eso de 2 horas para el almuerzo no me parece bien. Ojalá pudiéramos reducirlas a 1.
Tiene sus ventajas y desventajas, pero la mayoría de los empleados se oponen.
¿Por qué? ¿Les hace falta la siesta?
No es eso. Es que casi todos tienen que ir a sus casas a almorzar.
Sí, ya comprendo. Sin embargo, quisiera que lo probáramos por algunos días, a ver si resulta.
Mr. Wright está enojadísimo porque ustedes llegaron 10 minutos tarde.
Sí, ya me di cuenta sin que me lo dijeras. Como si nosotras tuviéramos la culpa. Son esos cochinos autobuses.
Además, ¿qué son 10 minutos más, 10 minutos menos? Qué antipático es ese señor. No creas, él es muy simpático. Lo que pasa es que es exigente. Y a lo mejor tiene razón. Lo único que digo yo es que siento tanto que Mr. Roberts renunciara al puesto.
Sí, a Mr. Roberts no le importaba que llegáramos un poquito tarde, con tal que le hiciéramos bien el trabajo.
Wow. So that's totally coincidental that both of those films were in Spanish. The first one, I had an inkling of what it was, which was With These Weapons. And it said With These Weapons Spanish. And I looked at the duration of it, because I know what With These Weapons is. At least I have a copy of it in English. And it's about, I believe it's about gonorrhea. It's about venereal disease. But I don't have a Spanish version, and unfortunately this one was clipped. It was just the last couple of minutes. So, and also today this scanner being a pain in the butt regarding tension issues. Anywho, I'm Skip Alzheimer. Welcome to the AV Geeks Lunchtime Streaming Show, where we watch old 16mm films and then comment on them. Let's see, what do I got set up today? I'm gonna probably show a longer film, religious film. Earlier in the day, my assistant, or my intern Miles, and I schlepped 25 boxes of films to a storage unit. We haven't even checked them in yet. We're getting so many at this moment, and we'll probably get maybe 30 more, 80 more boxes. 30, 80. Anyways, we're going to get more boxes, and so I just have to clear them out because it's kind of taking up space. And then we'll go in and we'll get some shelving units for them, and we'll digitize them. I mean, we'll catalog them, and I need more coffee. That's the problem. Anyways, here is how green plants make and use food. Enjoy. Oh, okay, all right. Let me, before I get started with that. So yesterday, the YouTube copyright hammer interrupted my stream where I was showing Let's Keep Food Safe to Eat. And at no point have they told me why. Normally I get a notification saying like, oh, well, you used X or whatever. No, there was no indication why. I can guess why, because I think that Shout Factory did it. Based on previous experiences with Coronet films. But I don't know. There's been no notification that's popped up. And I love YouTube in that I'm able to get this material out to you guys live. And you're able to share it and comment on it. But, geez, what a pain in the ass YouTube can be sometimes. Anyways, back to green plants and how they make and use food. Enjoy.
Life on our planet forms a complex pattern, each life form depending on others for its existence. Animal life is part of a food chain that begins with green plants. Many animals get their food directly from plants. And the plant eaters may become food for other animals. There are a few plants that are capable of using animals for food. But most plants must get their food in some other way. It might seem logical to suppose that plants get their food from the soil. That idea can be tested by observation and experiment. If you take a bean seed and cut it open, you'll notice that the new plant, the embryo, is only a small part of the seed. Surrounding the embryo are two seed leaves called cotyledons. They contain stored food, mostly starch, that can be used when the seed sprouts and the new plant begins to grow. We'll use time-lapse photography to compress several days into a few seconds. By the time a plant has developed green leaves, the stored food has been used up. This means that a growing plant must develop another source of food. And perhaps that food, or at least part of it, does come from the soil. Time-lapse photography shows that a plant growing in dry soil will become wilted. And without water, it will eventually die. So, in order to live and grow, a plant needs water, absorbed by the roots from the soil. But it's likely that soil provides more than just water. Take a sample of rich soil and pour distilled water through it. Then boil away the water. When the water evaporates, it leaves a residue of mineral salts, which came from the soil. Minerals dissolved in water can be absorbed by plant roots. When we add fertilizer to soil, we're adding minerals that can be absorbed by growing plants. Fertilizer is sometimes called plant food, and it's true that a plant needs minerals. But food is more than just minerals, and plant food must be more than what a plant can absorb from the soil. A growing plant receives other things from its surroundings, things which somehow combine to provide food for the plant. Put a plant under a bell jar and pump the air out of the jar. Without air, the plant will wither and eventually it will die. So plants also need air in order to live. And light is also important. Two bean plants, almost identical at first, but the one on the right is receiving more light than the other. In time-lapse photography, notice the difference in the growth of the two plants. Green plants are adapted to grow toward light. Watch what happens when one light bulb is turned off. This is time-lapse photography again. So a green plant needs light as well as air, water, and minerals. To see how this is related to food, we need to take a closer look at the structure of a plant. Plants are made up of thousands of living cells. There are several different types of cells, most of them arranged in layers to form tissues. Some of these tissues serve as tubes that carry liquids through the plant. The innermost layers of tissue are called xylem. Most of the cells here are dead and hollow. Water and dissolved minerals enter through the roots and move upward in the xylem tubes, through the stem and into the leaves. Most of the water reaching the leaves is given off into the air, but some water is used in a chemical reaction that also requires air and light. The surface of a leaf has many small openings called stomata. Air passes through the stomata into air chambers located just below the surface. Air and water are used as raw materials for a chemical reaction that takes place in certain specialized plant cells. Large numbers of these specialized cells are found in a leaf. Inside these cells are small bodies called chloroplasts. The chloroplasts contain chlorophyll, the pigment that gives a plant its green color. In a green leaf, molecules of carbon dioxide from the air move to the chloroplasts. From the xylem tubes, molecules of water also move to the chloroplasts. The chloroplasts absorb light energy, and this energy is used in a complex chemical reaction that converts carbon dioxide and water molecules to molecules of sugar, releasing leftover oxygen into the air. The reaction is called photosynthesis. By means of this process, green plants have produced the oxygen in the atmosphere that is essential to life. And the simple sugar produced by photosynthesis is a basic raw material for the more complex forms of food that are used by animals as well as by the plants themselves. The process of photosynthesis can be shown in a simplified chemical equation. Energy from sunlight is used to convert molecules of carbon dioxide and water and form molecules of simple sugar, as well as oxygen, which is released into the air. In a leaf, the sugar produced by photosynthesis moves to another set of tubes called the phloem tubes, a layer of living tissue next to the xylem. The sugar is carried in the phloem tubes to every part of the plant. Molecules of sugar are absorbed by all the living cells of the plant. Some of the sugar is used directly to supply energy for growth. This action has been speeded up by time-lapse photography. The release of energy in a plant cell involves a chemical reaction that uses up oxygen and releases carbon dioxide, just as it does in an animal cell. But plants produce much more oxygen by photosynthesis than they use in providing for their energy needs. Plant cells also use sugar as raw material for other types of food. The cells themselves are made of various types of protein, which are produced in a plant by chemical reactions that combine simple sugar with minerals absorbed from the soil. This process supplies the proteins needed for growth, as cells become larger and eventually divide to produce new cells. We're using time-lapse photography once again. Plant cells also produce starch from simple sugar. Starch is a concentrated form of food that is stored in various parts of a plant for later use. So, green plants don't take in food as animals do. Beginning with the process of photosynthesis, Green plants produce the food that nourishes the plants themselves and eventually all of the other forms of life on the earth, including ourselves.
That was pastoral. It was very calming. And time-lapse photography, man, it's pretty awesome. The I don't know if I've shown the Moody films that show that. And in fact, I just got some more Moody films. They might be ones I already have, but anyways, they basically show the process, which is that you have this, I think what's called an intervalometer, and it's a big timer, and what it does is you set it to how many when it clicks, and when it clicks on, and it turns on a light, and it sends a pulse, a trigger to take a frame, and then it, goes however many seconds, minutes, hours, days, does the same thing. Click, 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 click. And there was a filmmaker named John Ott who was based in, I believe, in Chicago. He donated a bunch of his films to the Chicago Film Archive, who we are buddies with. And so I think he set this up in his garage, and he shot all this amazing time-lapse photography of plants growing. Seeds, growing, all that stuff, the stuff that you're used to seeing. He was like almost one of the first people that did that in beautiful color. Like there were certainly ones, we've shown films from the 20s, 30s that are in black and white, but he did this beautiful color photography. And I think actually Disney used some of his footage. He would sell it to different people. But anyways, John Ott, I think is his name. All right. So yesterday I did a screening at the Alamo Draft House in Raleigh, and I appreciate if you were there. And I apologize because I'm going to show one of the films I showed last night because it reminded me how great it was. What was interesting is, so we do it like at the Video Vortex Lounge, which is a bar, and so people are coming and going, and it was clear that people weren't paying attention at the bar until this film came on, and then they turned around and they started watching it, and that's, I consider that to be a win. If I convince people who are going into the theater or exiting a theater to suddenly go, what is this? And then they spend time watching it. That's kind of why I like YouTube too, is because YouTube will show up in somebody's feed. My YouTube channel will show up in somebody's feed and they'll go, what is this? And then maybe I have a new fan, or maybe they'll just leave a catty comment. Regardless, I'm exposing people who didn't know that they were going to watch what they were watching, and I kind of like that. I mean, eventually at the Alamo, I hope to actually have stuff in a theater so it's not so loud and I have more. But I do like that kind of, what's this? Oh my goodness. And I did get a couple of kids that were like pointing at the projector, some people that took pictures of the projector. That's always happens. So I enjoy that. Anyways, so this film, what I showed last night was called Those Amazing Bikes. And so it was films about bikes. Ones that I've shown in the past, because there's some that are just so great. This one was shot by Caleb Deschanel, who is Zoe Deschanel's father. And he also was an amazing cinematographer. And this film is, I've shown this on the channel, but it was like 3 years ago. It's called The Bike. And what I like about this is that this is a counterpoint to other films that I showed last night, which had kids like acting, And it was the worst acting you can imagine. It was like, this kid was like line reading and was just, I was like, really, that's the best take you get? Oh my gosh. So this one, the kids are like real kids. Like, I would love to find the filmmaker and just kind of figure out, like, how did they do this? Did they script this? Did they just kind of set it up and let it just kind of flow? Like, kids are saying exactly what kids say. And I've shown another one in this series called Lost Puppy, but here's the bike. Enjoy.
Hey, where did you get that bike? For my birthday. Can I ride it? No. What about next time?
I'm going to leave soon. Did you put my brown hat in the car?
Yeah.
Don't say yeah.
Yeah.
Your mother had something for you to carry out.
All right. Here's a neat one. Hit it. No, my father said nobody could. Get off my fence, you're gonna break it. I'm not gonna break it. Well, you better get off before you do. Boy, who wants to ride that stinking old bike? Oh. Do you want to go to the park, Keith? I can't. My bike's broken. Did you see Steve's new bike? Yeah. Want to go see it again? Okay. Now my bike is good, isn't it? Yeah. Is anybody home? I don't think so. Where'd they go? Swimming. Cool bike. Yeah. Want to go over the fence? Okay. If we're going to look at it, yeah. Yeah. It goes up to 2. It goes up to 3? Yeah. It's a neat bike. Hey, if you ride the bike, we can go to the park. Come on, Keith. I won't be your friend anymore. We better not. What about he comes home late? Why not? What about he comes home late? How do you know? I just know. But I'm still thinking we don't. Keith, come on, please. Well, okay. Promise me something. If this breaks, it's your fault. It won't. How do you know? New bikes don't break. Oh, you're funny. These are good popsicles. Yeah. Every time I'm hungry, get these. Me too. I get to ride the bike back. Oh, come on, Keith. take care of it. I'm going to ride it. Me. You told me I could. I'm going to tell Steve on you. How could you? Yeah. You told me to ride it. Well, come on, please. Well, okay. But you have to take care of it. Okay. We better go now. Then I told you to take care of it? Well, yeah. Not ours. I know that. Hey, look, you made my popsicle dry. Oh, shut up. Oh, this is busted. So are the brakes. I saw it. Look at the whole run. How about we can ask him? And the slip shift too. Here, look at the horn now. It's all busted. See? Hey, where's that rubber thing that was on? You slid it and it went right in the trash can. That rolled out again. Now we're not to try. And look, the steps won't work. Oh, we have to. This is what I'm doing. Oh, it's too good. We're going to get this bike home fast. Let's get it to your house and try to fix it. Ah! But my house is very far. Okay, we'll just walk with it. All right. Shall we fix it? We have to take it to my garage. You got a wrench? Yeah, but you have to help me. You're the one who broke it. It's not my fault. You took it. Oh, God. There's a big scratch on the front fender. Yeah, okay. Eddie, stop playing around. We have to hurry. Come on. I want to blow bubbles. Come on. Okay. Does the horn work? No, I can't get to work. So we better get the bike back right now. Fix it. Okay. And we'll see. Good. Keith's the other way. Oh. Okay, let's get out. No, not the front wheel. Supposed to be. It's supposed to be back forward. No! Well, it's supposed to go up here. No! Well, we big boys. Come on, let's take this. Keith, are you going to tell on me? I know you're going to tell. I think think you should tell, White. You're the one who told me to bring... Huh? No. You're going to tell. Why should I tell? Because you told me to bring it. It's your fault now. You're the one who's going to get in trouble, not me. Who are you? No, I'm not. I'm sure. Hey, Bobby, get out of here. Get out of here, Bob. Hurry up. Are you going to really tell, Keith? No, I'm not even going to tell. You should tell. I mean it. Then who is going to tell? You. Not me. Yes, you are. You can't make me. I won't be your friend. Keith! Look at me! Hey, Keith, Steve's down there. I better go home and eat my dinner. I know what you're going to do, tell. Yes, you are. Go ahead, I'm going to watch you. And you better not either. Hey, Keith, come on, I want to talk to you. Hey, Keith! Come on, don't tell.
So good. I need to see if there's others in that series, because even Lost Puppy has that same kind of loose, it's not improvisational, but it's definitely the kids just are maybe put in these situations and then they just kind of interact as kids like that. God, that one kid. And I don't even know, do we hear his name ever? Not Keith, but the blonde-haired menace who is seems to get Keith into a lot of trouble. Like his I won't be your friend anymore. I'm gonna tell on you. Like that whole thing. I don't know if you experienced that as a kid. I certainly did. And maybe I invoked the I'm not gonna be your friend anymore. The other one that we used a lot was, well, you'll have to pay for our doctor bills. That was the threat of well, if you do physical harm to me, you're going to have to pay the doctor bills. Man, because I am sure that I was that age at that time. And so all that stuff just brings me back to Ohio, suburban Ohio. Okay, so behind me I have a film on the scanner, and this one is another religious film. It's called, I believe it's called The Beginnings of Wisdom, and I think this is probably from the 60s, or maybe even the late 50s. But a lot of these films are either by Concordia or by Family Films. And These all came from the company, or came from the archive Basement Films, which is a comparable archive in Albuquerque, who is dealing with a space crisis, and they're trying to cull their collection to what they're interested in. And I was like, yeah, I'll take what you don't want. And so this one, I looked at the synopsis, and it basically is about a college student who is he's straying off the path of Christianity, and let's see how he's brought back. This is called The Beginnings of Wisdom. Enjoy.
I'm sorry, Glenn. I'm really sincerely sorry. Look this over again. If you honestly feel it deserves a passing grade, let's talk about it some more.
No, Professor, I'm sure you're right.
You know, this is the second test that you failed this semester. One more like it, and you won't even pass the course. You know yourself that if you fail philosophy, they'll never graduate you in June. What's happened? Is something the matter, Glenn? You're one of my best students, Glenn. Maybe you're the best. I know you could pass it if you just applied yourself.
Thank you, sir.
Don't you want this?
Well?
What grade did you get?
I flunked.
Oh, Glenn.
Well, after all the time you put in hitting the books, look, I'm gonna go on up to my room now.
Well, is there anything I can do?
No, Judy. It's nothing.
Doug, I just don't understand how he could have flunked. I mean, he stayed up every night studying to pass this exam, sometimes till 2 in the morning.
Yeah, but you know something? I'd watch him sometimes. I could see his mind wasn't on it. He was way off somewhere.
I just don't understand it.
Neither do I. It's not just his schoolwork. It's everything. You ought to see him around here. He's acting like some kind of a creep. You know, sitting by himself and staring off into space half the time.
I know, he's been that way with me, too. Do you think it could have anything to do with his father's death?
Oh, but that happened 6 months ago. 6 months, it wouldn't make sense.
Maybe it would.
Come on now, a period of mourning is one thing, but this...
His mother died when he was little, didn't she?
Yeah?
And Glenn was an only child. Well, just imagine how close that must have brought him to his father. You know, probably closer than you or I ever realized.
I just wanted to tell you, Judy's still downstairs. She's waiting for you. Doug, would you make up some excuse for me? I'm not up to talking to anyone right now. Judy's not just anyone. She's your girl, remember? Would you tell her I'm sorry? Tell her I'll phone her later. Tell her anything. Please, Doug. Okay, Glenn. Okay.
Where's Glenn?
Still up in the room. He said he'd call you.
Oh.
He's in bad shape, Judy. Real bad. When I walked into the room, he was just sitting there and staring at his dad's picture. Looks like you were right. This has probably been on his mind all this time.
Oh, Doug, we've got to help him. Outside of you and me, is there anyone that he confides in?
He's got lots of friends, mostly guys here in the house. No one that close, though, no.
Well, is there anyone who knew his father? I mean, knew him well.
Hey, wait a sec. The pastor here on campus, Pastor Howard. Glenn used to be real friendly with him a couple of years ago. Belonged to his congregation, in fact. I think he came from Glenn's hometown.
Well, yes, I knew Glenn's father quite well, as a matter of fact. He was a member of my congregation back in Marston. And, he was a model member, I might add.
Pastor, do you think Mr. Barrow's death could be tied up with what's happened to Glenn? I mean, the way he's retreated and stopped caring about everything.
Yes, it could have. I know one thing. His father's death came as a shattering blow to him.
But Glenn hardly seemed any different after it happened. He didn't start to act this way till the last month or so.
Well, that's the way some people respond to grief. You know, delayed reaction. I guess his emotions have been eating at him constantly, and now everything's beginning to take its toll.
It's as though he's punishing himself, as though he enjoys being miserable. Why would he feel like that?
Well, I can't say. Unless there's an element of guilt mixed in with his grief.
What's he got to feel guilty about?
Well, shortly after Mr. Barrow died, I visited Glenn to offer consolation. And we talked. And he told me what happened that day, just before his father died on the operating table. And it seems that Mr. Barrow, he insisted, even then, on discussing Glenn's attitude toward religion. Well, they had, well, I guess you could only call it a sort of argument, even though Glenn tried to calm him, keep him from talking about it.
You mean that religion meant that much to Mr. Barrows? So much that it was on his mind at a time like that?
Yes, it meant that much to him. He was a devout Christian. And he was strong in the face of death because of his faith in Christ. And he wanted to make sure that Glenn had that same faith.
But you said something about guilt.
Yes, I suspect that in some strange way, Glenn feels responsible for his father's death.
Well, what did Doug and Judy tell you?
They told me you were gloomy, despondent, stopped taking an interest in your studies. Now, Glenn, you may think I'm getting a little too personal, but what I'd like to know is this. Have you at any time ever felt as though you helped cause your father's death?
Why do you ask that?
Well, I thought perhaps you thought the excitement caused by the argument you had with him might have harmed him in some way and led to his death.
Oh, what difference does it make? He's dead. Nothing's gonna change that.
Yes, but you're alive. And he wanted you to be happy, make the most of your life. Instead, you're going around acting as though you're dead yourself.
Maybe if he hadn't gotten so excited, he might have pulled through. I don't know.
Well, I do. I phoned the man who performed the operation an hour ago.
You called Dr. Ramsey in Marlston?
And I asked him point blank if any emotional upset your father might have experienced could have affected the outcome.
What did he say?
He gave me a positive no. Nothing could have changed what happened. It would have been the same if he'd been perfectly calm.
I see.
So you can put your mind at rest on that score.
At rest?
Something else bothering you, isn't it?
The one thing that my father wanted from me, I refused him on his deathbed. He wanted me to be a Christian, and I threw Christianity right in his face. And that's all that I've been able to think of ever since. I've tried to believe as he did. I tried, but I can't. I don't believe. I did believe once, but I don't now.
I see.
All my life, I went to church. And then I came here and I started reading books by people I'd never known before. People like McTaggart and Sartre, Lemaitre. I was exposed to ideas that I'd never heard of before. I didn't exactly accept their way of thinking, but, well, they did start me to wonder. Wonder about God and Christianity, and whether it makes any sense to be a Christian today, or whether it ever did make any sense.
I take it your conclusion was completely negative.
I haven't reached any conclusion. I know I don't believe in what the church taught me, but I don't know what I do believe. I don't know if I believe in anything. Did Doug tell you what happened to me on the philosophy test?
Yeah.
Something happened that never did before. I couldn't think. I couldn't put one single word down on paper. I was paralyzed. If Dad was just here, I'd have somebody to talk to at least.
You feel lost without your father, don't you?
Well, he was more than a father to me. He was actually the best friend I had. I could come to him with anything that was on my mind, and he'd listen. Even if it was something that was completely against his grain. And when I told him how I felt about God, like I just told you, he didn't shout, or he just talked to me. And we talked for days. Not that the talking ever led to any definite conclusion. That wasn't important. But we had something between us that was so special. It wasn't anything you could exactly put into words, but oh, it was there. It was there, and we both knew it. Well, I guess there isn't much more to say. I do feel better, though, now that I've gotten it all out of my system.
Well, from what you've said, it seems to me that you nearly worshipped your father.
Yeah, I guess I did.
Now he's gone, there's no one else in your life like him. Nothing. Not even God himself.
Look, I told you,
That you don't believe, yes. That must make it very difficult. Having nothing to believe in leaves a void in your life, I think. A void that's terribly hard to fill. Glenn, believe me, Christ could fill that void if you'd put your faith in him.
I can't be a hypocrite. Look, don't you see how phony it would be if I used God as sort of a cure-all for everything?
Others have done the same thing. To start with, anyway. They didn't feel hypocritical. A lot of people have turned to God out of desperation, and for no other reason, and that's nothing to be ashamed of. God's merciful, Glenn. He won't be against you for that. If you won't let God help you, well, who will?
Is there anything I can do?
Yes, Professor Kemmer, these things you teach in your philosophy courses, do you really believe in them?
I don't think I understand you.
Well, are these the things you live by, or is it just another course that you teach like someone else would teach math or history or basket weaving?
Well, that's the first time that one of my students ever asked me a question like that. Most of them aren't really that interested.
Well, it's important to me, and...
All right. I'll try to give you an honest answer. Yes, Glenn. I think I do live by the things I teach. Well, not all of them, mind you. You know, trying to abide by different philosophies, 50 at least conflicting philosophies, would probably drive me out of my mind.
Well, do you have any strong feelings about God?
No. You mean, do I believe in God?
Yes.
Glenn, you're sort of putting me on the spot, you know. An instructor is supposed to, well, remain objective, teach the course, and not impose his own personal beliefs on his students.
But you wouldn't be imposing, sir, because I'm asking you. I want to know.
Well, it just so happens that I'm an atheist. To put it a little more precisely, I'm an atheistic existentialist. How's that for a bit of academic mumbo-jumbo, huh? I mean, not that I hold anything against those who think otherwise.
Well, doesn't it worry you?
Worry?
Yes, sir. My father said that, well, people without God are sort of hollow inside.
Oh, I don't feel particularly hollow. And I don't want to refute what your father said. I'm sure that he was a quite different person from the kind of person I am, with probably a set of totally different convictions.
Then you believe that man is everything and God is nothing.
I believe that we must work out our own destinies without any help or comfort from any higher being.
Oh, you wait right here. I'll go on upstairs and get the notes.
Oh, no need to go upstairs. Let's just sit out here a while. Such a nice night.
Okay.
Do you know anything about astronomy?
Very, very little. Why?
Well, I've never been able to tell the difference between the Big Dipper and the Little Dipper.
One's bigger.
Thank you, Mr. Galileo. And here I thought you knew just about everything.
You didn't.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I suppose that there are a few areas of knowledge that I haven't delved into.
No, really, you're so much smarter than I am.
That's not true, Judy.
Yes, it is. And sometimes I wonder what you see in a dodo like me.
Whoever said you were a dodo?
I did, just now.
Well, I say you're not. That makes it 1 against 1. Now, you want me to get Doug down here to cast the deciding vote?
No. It's nicer this way. Just the two of us. But really, Glenn, sometimes I feel so stupid.
Stupid? What about?
Well, about everything. I know the kind of impression I create sometimes. Flighty little co-ed. Superficial, scatterbrained. Trouble is, a lot of it's true.
Judy, you're not acting like a scatterbrain now, and you never have.
But I feel so helpless. You've been having such a time of it, and what help have I been?
What could you do?
Well, I don't know, but something. Maybe if I were a different sort of person.
Look, I like you just the way you are.
Is that why you haven't tried to see me in so long? I'll bet Doug had to talk you into it, didn't he? That's what I thought. You know, Glenn, I don't think I'm the right sort of girl for you.
No, Judy, no.
No, really, I think we're wrong for each other. We've had an awful lot of fun dating. But when you gave me your pin, I guess I just started thinking seriously about us getting married.
Judy, I'm glad you did.
But I just don't think it would work, Glenn. You've been going through a crisis, and I haven't been able to help you at all. And if we were married, how would it be any different if something just as important came up?
Judy, you're being much too critical of yourself. You seem to forget that I talked to the pastor, I talked to Professor Kemmer. There wasn't anything either one of them could do. And they're two of the most intelligent people I know. You are right about one thing, though. I have sort of underrated you. I haven't really given you credit for for having the depth that you really do have. And, well, I was wrong, and I'm sorry. Judy, I love you. I want to marry you now, more than ever.
Oh, Glenn.
As far as what's been ailing me, well, I don't know if there is any medicine for that. I don't know if there ever will be. You know what Professor Kemmer says about people being the answer to everything? Well, I'm beginning to wonder about that, too. I wonder if there is any answer. You know something, Judy? I don't think I'll ever be the same now that Dad's gone.
Glenn, why don't you try talking to Pastor Howard again? I know what you said before about him not being able to do anything. But now you seem different. And it couldn't hurt to talk, could it?
No, I guess it couldn't hurt.
It seems to me what you're searching for in your friends, in Professor Kemmer, in me, is some kind of ultimate solution, a sort of super panacea, really. Well, I'm sorry to disillusion you, but you're not going to get that from anyone on the face of this earth.
Yeah, I guess I was pretty foolish to think I could.
Oh, no, not really. I said on the face of this earth. That limits it, you know. See, I believe that God can fill that void within you in a way that no human being could ever do.
You know, that sounds like something my father said once. Even at the end, he was so confident in God.
Confident, yes.
He said that if it wasn't that he believed in God, really believed, that he wouldn't be able to lie there and talk to me the way he did. He'd be too full of fear. He'd be terrified of dying. But instead he said that he was ready whenever the Lord wanted him, because he was assured of the Lord's love and forgiveness.
What else, Glenn?
He said that Christ was his anchor, and my mother's, and that it was he that gave them the strength that they needed when the first baby died. And he said that after my mother died, that Christ was all he had to hold on to for a long time, and that he wasn't afraid because Christ was with him. And that the only person he was afraid for was me.
Well, in the light of what's happened since he died, I'd say he had good reason to feel that way. Well, what happens now, Glenn? You've got a problem, and it's a difficult problem. I assume you're going to continue trying to solve it.
Yeah, I'm going to try.
And just how you do that is the question. You turn to your philosophy professor again, and, well, he's a very bright fellow. I'm sure he'll have a lot of answers for you, a lot of isms, and you can take your pick. You see, beside atheism and existentialism, there's, those ideas I presume you've already discarded. But beside those, there's agnosticism and hedonism. And they are all answers to human existence that aren't really answers at all. There's only one true answer, Glenn, and that's faith in God through Christ.
But what if you don't believe?
You just remember that your father believed, and ask yourself why. Now remember, he was able to see death approaching without fear, even with joy and hope. because he knew that beyond death there was for him something wonderful. He knew that Christ was waiting for him, because that was the Savior's promise. Christ assured your father not only of the forgiveness of his sins because of his death and resurrection in his behalf, but also of an eternity of bliss with him in heaven. In fact, that is his assurance to anyone who will put his trust in him. I know how much your father loved you, Glenn. Now, you just imagine a love 1,000,000 times as deep and enduring. And that's the way your Heavenly Father loves you. He loves you so much, he gave his only son to die for you. And don't you think knowing that, it's enough to go on?
You know, you sound just like my father.
I only hope I can have a faith as deep and beautiful as his.
Pastor, I know how convinced you are of these things and how committed you are to them, and believe me, I wish I could feel the same way. But I do know one thing. I haven't been able to find anything to fill this terrible emptiness in anything that anyone's told me. So, well, I'm willing to open my ears and my mind and my heart to anything you have to say, if you think it'll bring me the faith my father had.
Well, I'm glad to hear you say that, Glenn. Now, I think you're being very wise.
Wise? Oh, right now, I feel as if I don't know a thing. Not a single thing.
You remind me of something I read or heard somewhere. I can't remember the words exactly, but it ran something like, the admission of ignorance is the beginning of wisdom.
I just learned something. I thought that I saw that Family Films was attributed for this, and that they made it for the Lutheran Synod of somewhere. But then it was considered a Concordia film. I thought that Family Films and Concordia Films were separate, but maybe not. Well, there you go. I have to do a little bit more research on my religious film backgrounds. Thanks for tuning in today. I'm happy to know that that kid's atheism did not kill his dad, and that there are other ways to live your life, including hedonism. But yeah, these films are fascinating, and I got a bunch of them, and we will probably watch some next week, as I'm going to be traveling all week, going to Ohio and doing some screenings for students at University of Ohio in Athens, and then I'm going to be going to Bloomington, Indiana, at the Indiana University, for a Century of 16 millimeter symposium. And I will try to do some live interviews there and show you, but also we might be watching more of these religious films pre-recorded, along with films that are kind of loosely related. And also, I mean, I'm getting so many films. Thankful the mailman has not shown up today, but more boxes of films might show up, even though we just schlepped 25 boxes off site. So I might be pulling from those, pre-recording those, and then you'll get to see them. But if you like what you saw, one way that you can contribute to us is by hitting the thumbs up button, the like button. You can go to ko-fi.com/abgeeks. You can go to patreon.com/abgeeks. You can also go to use the super thanks button as a way to pay us. And my heart goes out to the Museum of Fuzzy TV Memories. It's a guy who has been compiling and digitizing videotapes of Chicago local television. And he's in trouble. He's getting a lot of news about it. Basically, Sony has flagged him 3 times, and that's because for some reason 3 strikes and you're out. You know, like, what does that have to do with anything? Like, why does 3 times? Is it just because of baseball? Is that really what it is? It's very frustrating if we're basing legal things on baseball. But he might lose his channel. He has more subscribers than me. He flew a little too close to the sun, I think, and he admits it by releasing full versions of TV shows that are actively in syndication. What's great about what he provides is not necessarily the TV show, because I can see that anywhere. I can see that on Meet TV. But what's interesting is all the local advertising. And I hope that he comes back, if this is truly taking away his channel, and then capitalizes and notices what's important about his collection. And it's not that it's a Bewitched episode. It is that there's ads in between for car dealerships and for businesses that no longer exist. Because that's the rare stuff. That's stuff that does not exist anywhere else except probably on that videotape. But my heart goes out to Rick Klein. And, you know, this is YouTube. YouTube is more than this funny hammer that hits me on the head occasionally. It can be a bitch goddess, and it can take away what it has given. And I appreciate the fact that I'm able, through you guys, to provide you with this content, but it could just, tomorrow, it could happen. And I should say that in the past, I have had copyright strikes, and they have been for bogus reasons. They have been on material that is in the public domain, and I've had to reason with the people who are making those claims, and it's up to them to decide. Eventually, you do get like a 90-day period where they do go away, but it is unnerving. And, you know, all it takes is one person to say, like, oh yeah, I own those, and then you have to figure out a way to deal with it. And what I'm hoping will come out of this is that he'll get enough attention that he'll be able to actually legally challenge this and maybe get some pro bono lawyer to help clarify this stuff on YouTube. But I am gone way down a thing that you don't want to know about, and that I'm actually sad that I have to know about. We'll see you tomorrow. Everybody have a great rest of your day.